Golden words of the Buddha: the bigger the ego, the more adversities. Listen to change your life. There are moments in life when adversities come crashing in like relentless waves. People's criticisms, failures, everyone's actions cause us pain. Then we ask ourselves, why does everything go against me? Is the world too harsh, or are people too indifferent? But then, in a quiet moment, when there is no one left to blame and nothing left to cling to, we suddenly realize, perhaps it is our ego that has grown larger than reality itself. It demands that everything go according to its wishes. It refuses to be hurt, will not accept criticism, and cannot tolerate any disadvantage. It is precisely that ego which makes adversity feel so heavy. For without an ego, how could there be anything favorable or unfavorable? Without an ego, another person's words would be as fleeting as the passing wind. But when the ego becomes too big, even a speck of dust turns into a storm. The Buddha taught, the ego is the root of suffering. Until that root is uprooted, suffering will continue to arise. Adversity often is not an enemy, but the most honest mirror reflecting how tightly we cling to the self. The Buddha once said, no suffering comes from the outside. All suffering originates from the mind that has not been tamed. And a mind that is not tamed is one full of attachments to the self, believing that I am important, deserving of special care and service. The bigger the ego, the more easily we see ourselves as victims. We become quick to anger, quick to take offense, and quick to be wounded. And it is for that reason that adversity itself becomes a mirror for us to see the pride, stubbornness, and harshness dwelling within us. There was a man working at a large company. He was talented, energetic, but often clashed with colleagues. Anyone who offered a suggestion made him angry. Anyone who disagreed offended him, and anyone who succeeded more than him felt like a threat. Eventually, he had to quit because he felt no one understood him. He took that pain home, poured it on to his wife and children, and lived more and more closed off and resentful. One day, he went to a temple. After some time of practice, he suddenly realized, I thought the whole world was against me, but it turns out I was the one standing against the world. His teacher taught him a phrase: the person who sees others' faults the most is someone who has never looked deeply into themselves. Adversity does not come to make you suffer. It comes to grind down the ego, the thing that always thinks it is the center of the universe. As long as you cling to being right, cling to feeling wronged, cling to needing to be understood, you remain trapped in the cycle of suffering. The ego does not merely create simple adversities, it also causes us to see the nature of everything incorrectly. Anyone who acts against our wishes becomes an enemy. Anyone who is different becomes an obstacle. But in truth, other people are not at fault. Our inflated ego is what wears us out. When the ego rules the mind, any feedback becomes an insult. Another's silence becomes a sign of disdain. The ego keeps us in the illusion of always being right. And if anyone is wrong, it certainly cannot be us. But if we look back, we will see a truly wise person is someone who first doubts themselves. They do not rush to blame. They use adversity as an opportunity to observe, where in my mind is turbulence? To what am I clinging? A genuine practitioner, when criticized, does not defend themselves. When misunderstood, does not complain, but quietly looks into the root. What within me has been touched? What pride has risen? From there, they untie each knot with their breath, with mindful presence, with a heart that gradually lets go. If the ego remains unseen, it leads us into ignorance. But once it is seen, adversity becomes a spiritual training ground. The one who causes pain becomes a good teacher, and every disturbance becomes a method for transformation. Once, a female lay practitioner came to ask an elder monk, "Teacher, I have been practicing for many years. I recite sutras, sit in meditation, eat vegetarian meals, but I am still easily hurt. A single careless word can bring me great suffering. Does this mean my practice has not yet reached its destination?" The monk smiled and replied, "Your practice has been very good, but now it is time for you to practice at a deeper level, which is to recognize and transform the ego. If you still let others control your mind with a single word, then you are still living by reaction, not by awakened awareness." The woman bowed her head, tears welling in her eyes. For the first time, she did not blame circumstances, but saw that the greatest tormentor was the self within her. From that moment, she began a new journey. Whenever anger arose, she returned to the breath. Whenever she was hurt, she asked herself, "What am I clinging to?" Gradually, the things that once wounded her no longer held power, for her mind had learned to embrace everything with awareness. Adversity does not cause us suffering. The ego is the root. Once the mind lets go, life becomes lighter, not because the world has become less harsh, but because we no longer want to be hurt by it. In family life, a comment from a loved one can easily make us angry because the ego claims, "How dare they speak to me that way?" Instead of focusing on the content, we react to tone, attitude, and personal emotion. But if we learn to let go, we can listen with humility and see our own part to improve. At work, when a senior colleague criticizes us, many react with hurt, silence, or opposition because the ego will not accept defeat or error. But if we learn to breathe slowly and look into the root of that reaction, we see that we are defending an ego, not the truth. Even in spiritual practice, the ego can sneak in. Some who meditate for many years begin to compare themselves, feeling superior to others. Some who preach well stir up thoughts of praise or criticism. An ego cloaked in spirituality is even more dangerous because it believes it is already right and refuses to learn further. When someone hurts you, do not react immediately. Pause, take 3 deep breaths, and ask, what in me has been touched? What am I defending? Am I more focused on being right than on being at peace? Simply by asking, you have begun to recognize the ego. Then, walk mindfully or sit quietly, breathe slowly, and contemplate, I am just a stream flowing within conditions. I am not superior to anyone, nor inferior. I am here not to win, but to learn how to let go. Do this daily, after each moment of anger or each time you feel hurt, and gradually the ego will melt like ice under the sunlight of mindful presence. True happiness does not come from defeating others. It comes from defeating the ego that silently controls our lives. Adversity is the most accurate measure of how much our mind has let go. A person with a big ego needs only one contrary word to lose their temper. A person who has let go can remain peaceful no matter how many adversities they face. Every adversity is a lesson. If you keep feeling oppressed, stop asking, why are people like this? And start asking, what am I still clinging to inside? The bigger the ego, the more adversities. But if you learn to step back and let go of an attachment, adversity itself becomes the door to freedom. Homage to the original teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha. Since ancient times, people have passed down a simple yet profound truth. The more you give, the more you receive, instinctively. Many think this applies only to money, but on the path of practice and understanding karmic law, we see that giving away a glance, a kind word, time, or a compassionate heart are ways to transform fate in the most subtle and enduring manner. In this Dharma talk, we will revisit why giving can change a person's life, and we will look at signs that when the mind knows how to give, blessings have begun to arise. The Buddha taught that if one knows charity, no matter how poor they are, they will someday be fulfilled. Why? Because giving is an act of sowing seeds. Every act of kindness and every bit of compassion we place into life is like a seed planted in the field of the mind. Sooner or later, heaven and earth will repay us with a bountiful harvest. Many still think, if I am poor, what can I give? But friend, giving is not only material. Some have no money but give a smile. Some have no status but give kindness. Some have no formal education but give sincere words. These things are worth more than all the gold. In a poor village, there was an old widow living alone, with no children, almost no possessions, but she had a strange habit. Every morning she swept the village path, picked up every scrap of trash, every blade of grass. People asked her, "Why do you do this?" She simply smiled, "So others can walk with clean feet." Many years later, when she passed away, the whole village came to her funeral. People pooled money to build a small shrine by the road, called the Shrine of the Leaf-Sweeping Lady. Anyone who passes by bows their head. People believe that as long as one prays there sincerely, difficult matters will become easy and serious illnesses will become mild, because her good heart continued to spread blessings far and wide. Have you ever met someone who tried to hold on to everything, only to end up losing everything? Some hold on to money, hold on to resentment, hold on to selfishness, and in the end live lonely, filled with regret. Why? Because blessings do not arise from holding on to things, but from letting go. When you give, you also let go. You let go of anger, let go of attachments, let go of the habit of thinking only of yourself. Each time you give something good, an old karma in your mind is washed away. But when you hold on to everything, even holding on to old karma in your mind, life cannot become light. There was a man named Hoa who once did big business but went bankrupt. In his desperation, he began doing charity work, not for any lofty principle, just to forget his sorrow. He went to distribute porridge in hospitals, help homeless people, clean garbage from parks. 3 years later, one of the people he had helped, a young man he had once fed, introduced him to a job. From there, he gradually rebuilt his life. Now that he is stable, he says, "I did not change my fortune with capital. I changed it with a heart that knows how to give." There are 3 types of generosity in Buddhist teaching. 1. Material generosity is offering material things. 2. Dharma generosity is offering knowledge, wise words, and the path. 3. Fearlessness generosity is offering others a sense of safety, freeing them from fear. You may not be wealthy, but you can offer someone an encouraging word. You may not be talented, but you can listen to someone in despair. You may not be strong, but you can help an elderly person cross the street. You may not stand out, but you can refrain from sowing discord. Do not think you have nothing to give. Each person possesses something that others need, invisible merits that are not meaningless. Some merits are unseen, unpraised, unspoken, yet they quietly form the seeds of blessings, like roots deep underground nourishing a canopy of green leaves. Giving does not always yield immediate results. Some people practice charity yet never become wealthy, helping others while still encountering difficulties. But remember, karma spares no one. Some merits ripen only at the right time, neither too early nor too late, precisely when they are needed to rescue you from the sufferings of a future life. It is like sunlight. You do not see it immediately when you flip on a switch, but if you continuously sow merits and maintain a kind heart, when darkness falls, the light will find you. There was a poor man who made a living by peddling a cyclo. His wife died early, his children moved away to work far from home, and he lived alone in a temporary house with a thatched roof, subsisting on his own labor. One day there was a heavy rainstorm. He saw a boy of about 13 years old shivering by the roadside, soaked and cold. Without hesitation, he stopped his cyclo and took off his only worn-out coat to give to the boy. "The rain is cold. Go home before you fall ill," he said. The boy was moved, simply bowed his head in gratitude, and disappeared into the rain. Years passed. The man remained poor, still peddling his cyclo, still living a life of virtue. One day he met with an accident and was hospitalized. He had no relatives and no money. The doctor on duty that day was a young man who had just been transferred to the hospital. When he saw the old man, he fell silent for a long time before tears welled up in his eyes. "Uncle, do you remember the boy you gave your coat to when I was cold and drenched?" he said. "It was me." Silently, he paid the man's hospital bills and took him home to live with him. There was no fanfare, no ostentatious repayment, just a cycle of karma closing in the form of unconditional kindness. You see, a worn-out coat may seem insignificant, but it changed the man's fortune. A deed that no one praised was witnessed by the Devis. A humble heart brought blessings just when they were most needed. Giving does not have to be grand. It only needs to be sincere and timely. If today you have nothing, do not think you have nothing to offer. As long as you still have a compassionate heart, you still possess the most precious thing to begin anew. Offer kindness, even if it is only a kind word, for who knows, it may return to lift you up at your darkest hour. Signs that you have begun to change your fortune through generosity. 1. When someone begins to give with a kind heart, without needing to announce it or expect repayment, their inner energy has already shifted. From that moment, external circumstances begin to move in a different direction. 2. Your mind feels lighter when helping others, as opposed to regretting past hesitation or calculation. After giving, you turn away with a peaceful smile. That is a sign that your heart is no longer entangled. Blessings have begun to be retained. 3. You feel at peace after sharing. You no longer exhaust yourself in disputes over winning and losing, and you no longer feel defensive. When someone needs you, you understand that sharing does not make you lose, but makes your heart richer. 4. You face fewer unexpected obstacles and minor annoyances become gentler. People who once made things difficult for you gradually soften. It is not that life has become easier. Rather, your heart has brightened, so you no longer accumulate negative karma. 5. You attract virtuous people and begin to form genuine, gentle relationships. Good people do not come to you by chance. Rather, you have become someone easy to admire. You resonate with the field of those who cultivate virtue. When you find yourself facing 5 difficult tasks, suddenly someone helps you. You once faced everything alone, but now whenever you feel lost, someone extends a hand. That is the sweet fruit of the wholesome seeds you quietly planted before, whether a year ago or in some distant life. Such changes may come quietly and slowly, but like water droplets that wear away rock over time, merit works the same way. You may not see it growing each day, but at some point it will lift you out of suffering in ways no one can explain. When you begin to notice these subtle signs in your life, smile and trust that your heart is changing and your destiny is silently blooming. Dear friend, life is not long and destiny is not something you can grasp tightly, but you can train, transform, and renew your own mind each day. Do not wait until old age to begin loving others. Do not wait until loss to learn to give. If you know how to give even when you have little, then when you have much, you will know how to live so as to cultivate even more blessings. Life does not demand that you be grand. It only asks that you live kindly in small ways, and those small things will create a destiny of abundance, stability, and happiness. Believe that an open hand that gives is also an open hand ready to receive goodness. If today you are exhausted, and if every day you ask yourself, why am I suffering so much? Pause for a moment and listen to this. Perhaps just a few simple words will soothe the silent wounds you have carried too long. There was a woman whose son died in an accident. She sought out the Buddha and begged him to bring her son back to life. The Buddha said, "Very well, but first go gather a handful of mustard seeds from a household that has never known suffering." She traveled all day and discovered that every household had experienced tears. She returned, knelt down, and began the journey of acceptance, transformation, and letting go. No one suffers without cause. Suffering is not punishment, but the natural result of karma and conditions, perhaps arising from this life or from many lives before. Blessings also never come by chance. They are the result of countless small acts of kindness that you quietly planted. Some people go through life without committing any great wrongdoing, but because they live with indifference or speak words that harm others, they inadvertently create negative karma. One day, when the cause and effect ripen, they are shocked to ask, why am I suffering like this? Others, though no richer or more prominent than anyone else, live sincerely, care for others, speak only when needed, and their lives are remarkably peaceful, as if an invisible hand always supports them. That is not because the heavens favor them. It is the result of the merits they quietly accumulated in every word, deed, and thought. Therefore, dear friend, if you are suffering today, do not only seek to escape suffering. Begin to live more virtuously and more kindly, so that tomorrow you will no longer plant seeds of pain. Because suffering is the result, and goodness is the path to dissolving it. When you understand that, you will stop blaming life and others and turn inward to transform yourself. Blaming only deepens wounds, but awakened awareness begins the journey of healing. We will no longer ask, why am I suffering? In an accusatory tone, but will ask, what did I plant that brought this suffering? With the voice of someone ready to examine their own heart. And that is when we cease to be victims of karma and begin to become agents of transforming karmic suffering. When suffering is understood, it transforms into compassion. When held with mindful awareness, suffering ceases to be an abyss and becomes a stepping stone for the heart to rise higher. Do not fear suffering. Only fear passing through it without learning anything. If today you still feel pain, still shed tears over something, do not despair, because that very capacity to feel is a sign that your heart is still alive and still has a chance to be reborn. When you understand this, you will cease blaming life or others and begin looking within yourself for transformation. No longer haunted by what others have done, no longer waiting for someone to return to apologize, to make amends, or to understand you. You realize that happiness does not lie in others changing, but in the transformation within yourself. You begin to let go, little by little, letting go of expectations that wear you out, letting go of resentments that have imprisoned your heart too long, letting go of the unanswerable questions, why do they treat me this way? You no longer want to prove anything. You simply want to live lightly, kindly, and decently, so that your mind is at peace and your life is sufficient. When you recognize that suffering once sank you, yet if you know how to turn back, it becomes the doorway to awakening. Even if today you feel the world has turned its back on you, no one understands you, no one listens, remember this. Suffering is a very real part of being human, and you are not the only one carrying it. The wealthy suffer the burdens of wealth, pressure, loneliness, fear of loss, fear of betrayal. The poor suffer the burdens of poverty, deprivation, insecurity, hardship, and sometimes contempt. The intelligent suffer because they overthink. The gentle suffer because they are easily wounded. The considerate suffer because they often yield. In general, no one escapes suffering, but not everyone knows how to learn from suffering to rise above it. A middle-aged man born into poverty struggled all his life. Because he was poor, his friends mocked him, his family looked down on him, and society shunned him. He resented life deeply and asked the heavens many times, "What wrong have I done to suffer like this?" One day, he encountered an old monk sitting under a tree beside a stream. He asked, "Venerable, why do I suffer? I have never harmed anyone, yet my life is still full of misfortune." The old monk smiled and asked him in return, "Then have you ever learned anything from those years of suffering?" The man was stunned. After a long silence, he replied, "I learned how to value money. I learned patience. I learned compassion for those poorer than myself. I do not dare do wrong because I know karma is real." The monk nodded, his eyes brightening. "Then you are not without merit. One who knows how to learn from suffering has already placed one foot on the path to enlightenment. Many people richer and more comfortable than you never turn inward. They are the truly pitiable ones. If you are suffering yet still preserve your goodness, if you are hurt yet do not inflict more harm on others, if you despair yet still seek a glimmer of light in the Dharma to carry on, then you have changed. You are learning from suffering, and that lesson, one no book can teach, will guide you far, deep toward the light. You are not alone in suffering, for everyone who passes through this life has once shed tears. But you will be special if you know how to learn something from that suffering and begin to live a more virtuous, gentle, and kind life for yourself and for all who once caused you pain. For if life were nothing but fragrant flowers and precious jewels, how many would bother turning inward to cultivate their hearts? When everything goes smoothly, we easily live under the illusion that we are already complete and on the right path. Only when we encounter adversity, stumbling, loss, do we realize that some lessons cannot be learned by reason alone, but through tears. Those long sleepless nights teach us to cherish a peaceful morning. Those deep wounds teach us how to love properly. Those days of utter crisis, of being lost, are when our souls begin to awaken gently and ask, "Am I living properly?" Do not let suffering destroy you. See it as a stern teacher who loves you in the quietest way, because pain does not come to annihilate us, but to cleanse away delusions, attachments, and the arrogant ego within. And then, once you have walked through suffering, your heart will soften, your gaze will grow gentler, your mind will learn to bow, to empathize, to love others more than ever. You will no longer speak the harsh words you once did. You will no longer seek to win or to argue right from wrong with anyone. You know that each person has their own burdens, and if they behave unkindly, perhaps they are themselves wounded somewhere deep within. You no longer wish to hold on to resentment. You want to live lightly, kindly, and honestly with your own heart, because you now understand, life is too short to harbor hatred, and a heart that is not spacious cannot find joy living in this world. You begin to learn how to smile at things that used to make you cry. You learn how to remain silent in the face of gossip. You learn how to reach out your hand to others instead of fiercely protecting your own pain. You do not have to be strong right away. It is enough that today you do not succumb to despair. As long as you can still hear a kind word, as long as a spark of faith still glimmers, you have merit left. Please continue living, no matter how hard it gets, for today's suffering may be the first step guiding you to a life of inner peace. Most human suffering does not arise from circumstances, but from a heart that never sees itself as enough and never knows how to let go. We suffer because we always want more money, more status, more affection, more validation from others in the way we desire. Yet life is not as we wish. The more we want, the more we suffer. The tighter we hold on, the more we tire. The Buddha taught that to live in peace, one must first learn to let go. Letting go does not mean losing, but opening the way for the mind to be at ease, opening the door for the heart to find calm. There are things you cannot let go of today, but when you have felt enough pain and gained enough understanding, you will naturally learn how to let go without regret. To live knowing enough brings peace of mind. To live letting go brings lightness of heart. Both are blessings, and these blessings are not bestowed by anyone else. but are the result of your daily practice, each thought, each way of living, each wholesome intention. People often think happiness comes from having a lot of money, a lot of love, a lot of success in society. But the more you have, the heavier and fiercer your heart becomes, and the more tired your hands grow. People run endlessly in the whirlpool of wanting to have, only to realize in exhaustion that happiness does not lie in gaining more, but in recognizing sufficiency. There was a poor man who made his living by pedaling a cyclo. Every day he went out, whether under a scorching sun or driving rain, he never faltered. People felt compassion for him because of his gaunt frame and slightly hunched back, but he always wore a gentle smile. Someone once asked, "You work so hard. How do you always seem so happy?" He simply smiled and replied in his rustic accent, "As long as I can pedal, I have food to eat. Some days I have dried fish, some days I have leafy greens. That's enough. I'm poor, but not miserable, because my heart does not complain." Those words left the listener speechless. Not everyone can live like him, living amidst deprivation without complaint, living through hardship yet still lighthearted. But in truth, he had nothing special, except that he had learned to know sufficiency. A mind that knows sufficiency is a form of blessing more precious than anything else. The wealthy may have much money, but if they constantly fear losing it and always feel they lack, their hearts remain impoverished. But someone like him, who is content with a simple meal, lives in inner abundance no matter what. Not only does knowing sufficiency bring blessings, but knowing how to let go is also wisdom. Knowing how to release what is old, knowing how to part with what is no longer you, knowing how to forgive those who once hurt you, and knowing how to forgive yourself for having once been weak or having made mistakes. Letting go is not failure. Letting go is a turning point so you can move forward without dragging the past behind you. Some people cling to a broken relationship and refuse to let go. Some hold tightly to a dream that no longer fits their current life, and thus suffer from what they will not release. But a person who holds a stone in the current will only sink the more they cling. Letting go may be the only way to rise and breathe again. When we know sufficiency, the mind feels light. When we know how to let go, the heart feels spacious. And when we know how to live lightly, unfazed by gossip, unburdened by proving ourselves, needing neither understanding nor praise, this is a profound form of inner freedom. No one gives us that freedom. It does not lie outside of us, but in how we perceive life. Some people live in a noisy city but have hearts as calm as meditation. Others live in a simple rural field, but their minds are at peace as if they have never known suffering. In truth, living blissfully without suffering means demanding less, complaining less, and letting go of attachments, adding a little gratitude, a little mindfulness, a little compassion for yourself and for others. Then, one day, you will realize, you do not wait for suffering to lessen to feel peace. Rather, your heart knows sufficiency, so suffering has no place to linger. Because peace does not lie outside of us, but in the way we view life. Joy does not come from having everything, but from loving ourselves. When we return to live more slowly, listening to each breath, when we sit quietly and observe our minds without judgment, when we no longer chase after recognition, then each passing day becomes a gift. This life is imperfect, yet it can still be very beautiful if we learn how to lighten our hearts in the face of unmet desires and offer gratitude for what is present. And if you are weary on life's journey, remember that as long as your mind still knows how to return, you are on the right path. As long as you live a life that is light, deep, and genuine, even if you stumble, your heart will remain tranquil like a calm lake at dawn. Have you ever noticed that the one making the most noise in a room is often the weakest? They always feel the need to speak, to prove something, to do everything to be acknowledged. Conversely, true strength belongs to those who remain silent, who observe, who patiently await the right moment. True power does not require clamor. It resides in calmness and the ability to control one's own mind. The ancients once taught, the truly wise often appear foolish, and the deeply compassionate often appear weak, because they understand there is no need to prove themselves. Time and action will speak on their behalf. Life has its own way of unfolding. When you let go of forcing outcomes, stop trying to please everyone, and cease explaining yourself to those who never truly listen, that is when you begin to truly live. You need not struggle to keep someone by your side. Those who belong with you will stay, and those who do not will quietly leave. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is the depth of awareness. When you stop speaking, you begin to hear more clearly not only the words others say, but also what they are trying to conceal. You will discern the motive behind each action, the pretense behind every smile, and the sincerity hidden within a glance. Most people cannot endure silence. They fear it, so they fill it with words out of fear of being forgotten. Those who feel compelled to assert themselves with endless speech are, ironically, the most likely to lose themselves. In contrast, someone who remains composed in silence possesses profound inner strength. True power does not lie in the number of words you speak in response, but in your ability to remain calm amid chaos. It is the patience to wait for the right moment, the wisdom to observe, and the courage to remain silent, yet still command attention. Think of those you truly admire, respected leaders, masters of wisdom, people whom others hold in esteem without the need for excessive speech. They have no need to boast or embellish their words with flowery phrases. When they speak, others listen, not because they speak often, but because every word they utter carries weight. The ancients said, "Speak simply but with full meaning, behave peacefully, and great things will succeed." It is this restraint in word and deed that makes the difference. What gives their words value is not volume, but life experience, accumulated insight, and profound understanding. They have observed enough, listened deeply, and acted rightly so that each of their statements becomes a crystallization of wisdom. When you speak less, you begin to listen, not only to others but to the voice inside yourself. You recognize which thoughts are fleeting and which intentions are genuine. You become less susceptible to surface impressions and can see through behaviors to the person's true nature. A wise person does not hastily ask who is truly good to them. They quietly observe how others treat them when nothing is expected in return. Silence creates a gap, and within that gap, truth gradually emerges. No one can hide their true nature forever. When faced with someone who remains silent and observant, you will see who is loyal, who is duplicitous, who truly cares, and who is merely playing a role for personal gain. When you're always speaking, you miss things. You fail to notice subtle details that reveal the truth. You fail to sense changes in tone, in gaze, in attitude. You miss opportunities and react only when danger has already arrived. But when you remain silent, your awakened awareness begins to operate. You no longer respond from emotion but from mindfulness, and that is the invisible advantage that the wise always possess. The noisy person tries to seize attention. The truly intelligent allow attention to find them through silence, composure, and understanding. This is the most natural way for everything to arrive at the right time, in the right place, with the right people. Silence brings clarity, and that clarity is the thin but decisive line between strength and weakness. When your mind is calm, your vision is clear. When your words subside, the surrounding truth rises to the surface. Imagine a game of chess. The best players do not rush to make a move. They do not need to declare their strategy or confuse their opponent with words. They sit in silence, carefully examining each potential move, analyzing every expression on the opponent's face, and act only when the moment is truly ripe. It is their silence that keeps them one step ahead, not through words, but through thought and acuity. Life is the same. Those who talk too much often unwittingly reveal their weaknesses. Before they have a chance to act, they expose their hearts. Before they prove their worth, they attempt to make others believe they are important, and thus their own words become a dagger turned against them. Meanwhile, those who remain silent and observe in stillness earn genuine respect. They do not need to say, "I am strong," because their strength already shows in their unwavering composure. They do not need promises, because their actions are the clearest proof. It is their steadfastness and silence that makes them stand out amid the noisy crowd. When you stop speaking, you become aware of many things you once missed, changes in someone's voice, in their gaze, and in the energy that surrounds them. You see through the pretense hiding behind apparent kindness and recognize contradictions in the words of the dishonest. You need not ask, simply listen long enough, and truth will reveal itself. The wise understand that speech can also be camouflage. Some things can only be felt, not explained. And with certain people, the more you explain, the more you hurt yourself. Silence in such moments is not defeat, but retreating in order to win in the long run. When used correctly, silence is the most powerful weapon. It helps you conserve your energy, avoid pointless arguments, and spare yourself from offering apologies to those who do not deserve them. The truth is, sometimes simply staying silent means you have already won. Silence is an invisible but potent form of power. It shields you from rash reactions that might destroy relationships, honor, or even precious opportunities. It prevents you from blurting out angry words you would later regret, and helps you avoid getting dragged into unnecessary debates where no one truly seeks to understand the other. Silence creates the necessary space for reflection, sharper observation, and precise action with a clear mind. When you accept silence as part of your life's journey, you begin to see who truly stays and who only comes to you when they want attention. You refuse to engage in trivial conversations and no longer feel compelled to react to every criticism or doubt because you understand. True strength does not seek argument, it simply exists quietly and cannot be denied. Those with moral integrity remain at ease, while petty people are perpetually anxious, and silence is the foundation of that serene state. Some of life's greatest victories do not come from words, but from knowing when to remain silent. When you let your actions, results, and personal discipline speak for you, you prove far more than any defense could. When you control your emotions and refuse to respond to provocations, you are not weak. You have reclaimed mastery over yourself. For if someone can make you angry, make you sad, or force you to explain yourself, then they control you. But if you remain silent and refuse to let them dictate your reaction, you have escaped the most cunning trap, emotional manipulation. Today's world equates noise with influence, but the louder the noise, the less space there is for inner strength to develop. The more you remain silent, the clearer you become on what truly deserves your energy. From this, you learn a profound truth: desperation pushes away what you most desire. When you chase success, love, or recognition from a place of lack, you inadvertently emit energy that drives these things farther away. Nothing of value is drawn to haste. Like a butterfly, the more you chase, the farther it flies, but when you sit quietly and do not chase, it may alight gently on your shoulder. Life, too, operates this way. The harder you try to hold on, the more you risk losing. But when you focus on yourself and cultivate your inner world, good things will naturally come to you. You will see this clearly in relationships. When you are the one always initiating contact, always calling first, always trying to sustain the connection, you unknowingly diminish your own value. When someone senses you are willing to sacrifice yourself just to keep them, they begin to take you for granted. They no longer cherish you, they withdraw, they test your boundaries. But when you pull back, when you stop chasing, when you cease explaining or proving your worthiness, they begin to feel your absence, and then it is they who return. Not because you manipulate them, but because you have learned to love yourself first. You no longer pursue what has never pursued you, and that is the true value of silence. Silence allows what is right to naturally find you. Have you ever wondered why you live well but life seems unfair? Why does the one you love most cause you the greatest pain? Why does one sorrow follow another, leaving you bewildered as to what you have done wrong? Then, in a quiet moment, listening to a Dharma talk or speaking with someone of deep insight, you hear, perhaps you are repaying karma. Those words are both light and profound. They are neither consolation nor blame for distant pasts, but a doorway inviting you to look deeply into your life, not to reproach, but to understand for the sake of peace, and to find peace for the sake of transformation. Look at the lives around you. A child born with a grave illness and poverty, someone who tirelessly does good yet is misunderstood and betrayed, someone who loves sincerely but loves the wrong person, someone who works hard but remains in want. Often we cannot find a present cause for these things, not because there is no cause, but because the causes lie hidden in the past, perhaps this lifetime or many lifetimes ago. Like seeing a tree bearing abundant fruit, yet not recalling which seed was planted. Though forgotten, the seed still grew. Karma is the same. It does not vanish. It merely waits for the right conditions to ripen. You may be repaying karma when you encounter irrational suffering. You always love but are abandoned by the one you love. You live with integrity but life turns its back on you. You do nothing wrong, yet troubles keep piling on. When reason cannot explain and no one is left to blame, it may be the moment karma is bearing fruit. You change partners, but each one wounds you. You change jobs, but envy greets you everywhere. You pursue money, but failure strikes at the last moment. If patterns repeat in different forms, perhaps you have yet to learn the old lesson. Karma is the most patient teacher in all the world. You feel as if life is guided by an invisible force. Whenever you seek peace, you get drawn into drama. Whenever you want forgiveness, you get hurt. Whenever you try to move forward, you get dragged back. In such moments, you may be repaying karma buried deep in the subconscious, invisible to the physical eye. Is repaying karma a bad thing? Repaying karma is not punishment, it is liberation. It is like the body detoxifying itself, painful but necessary for healing. Karma does not wish for your suffering. Karma only wishes for your awakening. In a remote mountain land lived an old man who carried 2 buckets of water to the temple every day, one bucket intact, the other leaking along the path. Someone asked, "Why not replace the leaky bucket?" The old man smiled. "Along the way, I plant flowers. The water that leaks out nourishes those flowers, so they bloom." Karma is the same. What you deem loss, disadvantage, or injustice may in fact be watering a garden you have yet to see. When people hear the phrase, transforming karma, many immediately think about how to end suffering, how to avoid it, or whether there is some ritual to erase one's karma. But from the profound perspective of the Buddhist teachings, and as taught by Zen masters and wise teachers, karma cannot be erased. It can only be transformed. That transformation does not occur outside of your own body, speech, and mind. Karma does not come to punish you. Karma comes to open the door of awakening for you. The first question you should ask is not, why did they make me suffer? But rather, why am I so deeply affected? Why can't I let go? As soon as you shift your focus from the outside to the inside, you are already halfway toward transforming your karma. Karma does not reside only in others or in circumstances, but in how you respond to what happens. When you stop blaming and stop accusing, you are left with yourself alone to learn how to understand and embrace whatever you carry. Most suffering does not come from karma itself, but from resisting karma. It is like being wet in the rain. We do not suffer because of the water, but because we resent the rain, fear getting wet, or lament ruining our nice clothes. You cannot stop the rain, but you can learn to dance in it. Letting go does not mean giving up. Letting go means ceasing to resist so that your mind becomes still like a calm lake, and then karma will dissolve like a drop of water into the void. Every act of compassion, every kind word, every sympathetic thought is a new seed. That seed will sprout and gradually dilute the old karma in your storehouse. A single drop of clean water falling steadily can, in time, purify a cup of muddy water. No matter what you may have sown in the past, the present moment always offers a chance for renewal. Whenever you sit quietly, observe your breath without judgment, you are washing away the deep scars in your mind. Meditation does not make karma disappear, but it gives you a perspective that transcends karma. When the mind is still, karma dissolves. When the mind is bright, darkness of karma has no place to cling. One of the most powerful ways karma manifests is through relationships. There are people you love but cannot be with. There are those who came into your life, hurt you, and then left. There are relatives you can never understand, even though you live together your entire life. They do not come to cause you suffering. They come to call in a debt or to repay one, or to learn a lesson together with you. If you love someone wholeheartedly but are not reciprocated, that might be unresolved relational karma. If you experience betrayal, it may be a repayment from the past. Stop clinging, stop blaming, and stop making yourself suffer. Instead, go within and learn to let go. Learn to redirect your love so that this relationship becomes a wholesome seed for your next life. A child may cause suffering for a parent. Parents may constantly scold and sow resentment in their child. Siblings may never get along. Recognize that each person is a real karmic connection. Rather than waiting for them to change, work quietly on transforming yourself. When you radiate peaceful energy, shared karma also softens. It may seem paradoxical, but it is true. Be grateful for karma, because through it you learn practice, learn to look at yourself, and learn to find the path of light. Without karma, you might never have stopped to listen to these words. Without suffering, you might never have sought awakening. A young woman lived in endless sorrow. She was orphaned from a young age, later betrayed by someone she loved, envied by friends, and lost all her possessions. She blamed the heavens, and she despised her fate. One day she went to a temple and saw another orphaned child, younger than she had been, sitting alone with no one to care for him. She approached the boy and gave him a cake. He smiled radiantly. That smile, pure like a dewdrop on a lotus petal, washed away all her resentment. She realized that although she had suffered, she could still give something good, and perhaps in giving, the karma within her was also gradually dissolving. Someone once asked a Zen master, "Teacher, I have practiced for many years, yet my life is still filled with suffering. Why do I live kindly yet still get deceived and wronged?" The master simply smiled and replied, "Because you have only sown a few wholesome seeds, but expect to harvest a whole season of bliss. You have only practiced for a short time, yet demand that your heart must be instantly pure. The truth is, karma does not vanish in a day or two, but your mind can be at peace today if you practice mindfulness. Mindfulness is not some lofty awakening. Mindfulness is knowing you are alive, breathing, and feeling in this very moment. When you are sad and you know you are sad, that is mindfulness. When you are angry yet do not speak hurtful words, that is mindfulness. When you are hurt yet choose to forgive, that is mindfulness. Mindfulness does not make suffering disappear, but it gives you a space between pain and reaction, and it is in that space that freedom arises. Many people think destiny cannot change, but in reality karma is not fixed. It depends on the mind that receives it. For example, a harsh word can wound you if your heart is weak, but the same word may pass by like a breeze if your heart is steadfast. Thus, karma is not as frightening as a fragile mind. When the heart is firm like a mountain, karma dissolves like morning mist. Someone once asked, "If I still have karma, can I ever be happy?" The answer is no. Happiness does not wait until karma is gone. Happiness is a profound skill of living in the present. Even if your life is incomplete, you can be at peace while sick. You can smile even after heartbreak. You can remain uninvitingly content in poverty. You can be grateful in hardship. That is the pinnacle of inner freedom, a kind of happiness that no one can steal and no circumstance can tarnish. A young monk once entered the monastery out of deep heartbreak. Day after day he bowed to the Buddha, recited sutras, and prayed to dissolve the karma of his romance. 3 years passed, and he still carried heavy longing in his heart. One day, while sweeping fallen leaves in the temple courtyard, he heard the wind rustle through the branches and leaves fall. In that moment, his mind suddenly brightened. He was no longer resentful, no longer longing, and he no longer needed that person to return. He smiled and thought to himself, "My romantic karma is not yet finished, but my heart has already lightened. Perhaps when my heart lightens, karma also recedes on its own." Not everyone suffers because of heavy karma. Often people suffer simply because they lack a heart that knows sufficiency. Some have everything yet suffer because they always want more. Others have lost everything yet remain at peace because they are grateful for each little thing. Knowing sufficiency does not mean resignation. Knowing sufficiency means not letting the mind be dragged by greed, hatred, or ignorance. When the mind is no longer stirred, karma has no root to cling to. Some practice to transform karma. Some practice more deeply to attain liberation. Transforming karma is to soothe the painful fruits of past actions. Attaining liberation is to no longer be bound by any karma. To transform karma, live virtuously. To attain liberation, see clearly that all karma is an illusion-born phenomenon. Because the mind dissolves, the mind is like a cloud drifting across the sky, like rain that falls and then vanishes, like a drama in a long dream. Upon awakening, the play itself becomes emptiness. To transform relational karma, you need to look back at yourself without blaming, accept what is happening without resistance, sow new wholesome seeds through your actions, words, and thoughts, practice benevolent intentions, recite sutras to purify your mind, let go of attachments, live with sufficiency and mindfulness each day, and above all, be grateful for karma, because karma is the silent teacher guiding you from the darkness of ignorance into the light of goodness. Perhaps you would never have learned how to love deeply, forgive genuinely, and rest peacefully within yourself if not for karma. If you have read this far, I believe you are not an ordinary person. You are someone seeking the path of light in a world full of darkness. You are someone learning to live each breath fully, rather than blaming others or fleeing from fate. You are not alone. Many people like you practice day by day to transform karma and live lightly within their karma. You need not wish for all karma to dissolve. You only need enough inner peace to pass through it. One day you will look back and see that karma was never truly frightening. You simply had to awaken and walk through it. Today's people endure many pressures: making a living, losing jobs, love affairs, fragile marriages, social media filled with comparisons and judgments, demands about appearance, age, and self-worth. In that whirlwind, old karma may bear stronger fruit, and it is easy to forget one thing. Suffering does not come from circumstances, but from a mind that cannot find a place to stand still. Karma does not choose an era. It's just that nowadays life is so noisy that we cannot hear the echoes of karma calling to be heard and healed. In the flow of life, you can still practice without necessarily retreating to a remote forest or a high monastery. You only need to learn one thing: live more slowly, breathe more deeply, and see yourself more clearly. Instead of reacting, observe. If someone curses you, you need not curse back. If someone harms you, you need not harm back. Simply pause for a second and see what emotion arises within you. 1 minute of pausing can save you from 10 years of creating new karma. Observation is the root of transformation. Nothing entangles karma more than ignorant reactions. There is no need to win. Simply maintain clarity. The world might see you as a loser when you do not respond, but in truth you are the victor because you keep your heart pure. Many have won with slick words, but lost their hearts. Many have gained fame over others, yet their hearts remain full of burdens. Transforming karma does not depend on who is right or who is wrong, but on whose heart is heavy and whose heart is light. A major pitfall in repaying karma is that you may unknowingly create new karma. For example, if you are betrayed, you harbor resentment and generate karma of hatred. If you are misunderstood, you try to prove yourself out of pride and generate pride-based karma. If you suffer loss, you fall into despair and generate dark karma. The best way to avoid creating new karma is to refrain from deciding anything while angry, refrain from acting while in despair, refrain from speaking while the mind is not yet clear. Be still with your pain, but do not act from that pain. In ancient times, people said that practicing meant shaving one's head and entering a temple. Today we understand that practice means keeping a quiet heart amid the clamor of the city. Practice means knowing you are angry, yet not letting anger carry you away. Practice means keeping a pure center even amid noise. You do not need to withdraw from life to practice. You need to live consciously within life. Do not regard karma as a boulder you must carry for life. Karma is like a cloud. Once the light of mindfulness shines through, it will dissipate. Your mind is like the sun. Each time you live mindfully, compassionately, and with sufficiency, you shine a ray of light that dispels karmic darkness. You need not wait until all karma is gone to find peace. You only need to find peace while karma still exists. That is the leap of a true practitioner. If right now you are still entangled in an incomplete romance, wrongly accused, encountering one misfortune after another, struggling to repay both worldly debts and psychic debts, do not hurry to blame life. Instead, gently say to yourself, perhaps this is the karma I have to learn from. Gradually, in repaying it, I need not repay quickly. I need only repay with a gentle heart. I do not need to be free of all suffering. I only need to suffer without creating more suffering. When you can speak in that way, you are no longer someone who merely endures karma, but someone who transforms it. In today's society, we easily encounter people who are wealthy and live comfortably, and one might assume that happiness and peace would naturally accompany them. Yet often, the reality is quite the opposite. There are those who, despite being rich and living virtuous, compassionate lives, still encounter inexplicable misfortunes. These questions recur over the years, eroding the minds of those who live honorably. It is no coincidence that, in the face of injustice and pain, people begin to seek an answer in the principle of cause and effect as a subtle form of justice that the universe silently upholds. Every action we take, every word we utter, even every thought that flashes through our minds, is a seed. These seeds do not vanish. They fall into the invisible soil of time and consciousness, quietly germinating when we least expect it. Some seeds are born from compassion, from empathetic eyes, from an outstretched hand offered just when someone else is drowning in hardship. Those seeds, even if we do not immediately see their fruit, are steadily growing in the unseen realm. Other seeds arise from anger, narrow-mindedness, or selfishness, seeds we may believe we have long forgotten, but they have never truly disappeared. When the conditions are right, they will bear fruit. The universe owes no one anything. If today you receive goodness, it is because you once sowed love. If today you stumble upon adversity, do not rush to bitterness, for it may simply be the moment when an old seed blossoms, completing a cycle of past karma. I once met a middle-aged woman who lived a simple life dedicated solely to doing good deeds. She was not wealthy in money, but she was rich in heart. Wherever she went, she left traces of love. Yet her life was filled with hardships. Her child was ill, her husband died early, and she carried burdens far heavier than most. One day, in conversation, she choked back tears and asked, "Why must someone who lives so righteously suffer so much?" I did not answer her with logic. Instead, I looked kindly into her eyes and said, "There are bad seeds you did not sow in this life, seeds you may have unknowingly scattered from a place so distant that your memory cannot reach. Just as fertile soil needs rain and sunshine to sprout, what you are enduring now might be the moment when old karma is finally blooming, so that you may be purified and unburdened for the future." She fell silent, her eyes still glistening, but from that moment on, she never asked that question again. She simply continued to live virtuously. Curiously, in the years that followed, her life gradually brightened. Her sick son recovered, her work stabilized, and her heart felt lighter, as if it had never been disturbed by the winds of sorrow. One thing to remember is that no one, no matter how dear, can carry your karma for you, just as no one can eat your meal so that you can be nourished. Cause and effect is something each person must walk through, learn from, and feel in order to understand and to be liberated. Even good people must repay their karma, but what matters is the attitude with which they do so. Some resentfully plant new seeds of suffering, while others smile tranquilly before challenges, thereby severing a painful cycle of rebirth. Those who understand cause and effect do not demand immediate results. They are patient like gardeners. They know some trees take 3 months to bloom, while others require 3 years to bear fruit. Yet no matter how long, if the seed is good, the result will always be blessed. Life is not a contest of who is richer or more powerful. It is a garden of karma, where each person sows with their daily deeds, thoughts, and way of living. You may be poor today, but if you live righteously, you are sowing blessings. You may be lonely today, but if you keep your heart gentle and loving, you are planting good karma for the future. And if you are in pain today, do not view it as meaningless. It may be the day an old seed is sprouting to reach its conclusion. Just as the earth does not choose which seed is sown but simply nourishes what is given, the universe likewise shows no favoritism. It returns to you exactly what you have sown, perhaps delayed but never mistaken. One thing that causes people to doubt cause and effect is seeing good people suffer while wicked people prosper. But cause and effect is not a perfectly balanced ledger. Someone may appear wealthy today because they are enjoying the fruits of past blessings, yet they may be quietly sowing unwholesome seeds, so their retribution is simply awaiting the appropriate moment to arise. Conversely, a person suffering today may be repaying old karma, and their good deeds are gradually transforming their life, like thirsty land that is finally receiving rain. Comparisons are unnecessary, for each person carries a unique stream of karma, and the timing of its fruition varies. The only thing we should do is turn inward, tend to the garden of our own mind so that it remains bright, wholesome, and pure. In those years of living mindfully, we will observe our lives and recognize a profound truth. A person with a pure heart, no matter the circumstances, will gradually find their path brightened by that purity, like a lamp that illuminates one's own path. The road may be dark and full of potholes at first, but if the lamp remains lit and carefully maintained each day, soon you will see the road widen and become more navigable. Many people who sow goodness are like those who light their lamp each day, not to show off its light to others, but to steady their own steps through life's twists and turns. In contrast, those who live selfishly are like someone holding a lamp for others while forgetting that they themselves are walking in darkness. In the end, that light cannot save them. It only ensnares them in the illusion of outward goodness, while their inner selves remain weary and hollow. Living with blessings is one thing. Knowing how to preserve and cultivate those blessings is even more important. Some are born into wealth, lineage, and power, but if they use those privileges to harm others, it is like recklessly squandering a treasure of virtue. When their worldly wealth is gone, they realize their lives have lost their meaning as well. Meanwhile, there are those with little material wealth who nonetheless do a small good each morning, offering a smile, forgiving a fault, showing compassion for a minor injustice. These seemingly trivial acts are the wholesome seeds quietly accumulating day by day, and in time they will yield an abundant field of blessings in the future. Have you ever seen an old person carefully folding dried lotus leaves into paper fans to give to children? Have you noticed a sanitation worker silently collecting trash on a rainy night without complaint, or a mother patiently packing food portions for the homeless every weekend afternoon? None of them are famous or featured on the news, yet they are sowing seeds of unconditional love, priceless blessings that no amount of money can buy. When you live more slowly, you will see that life is measured not by success, but by how present you are to the smallest details. Doing one good deed does not require a grand occasion. Simply stepping outside today with a gentler heart than yesterday is already an act of wholesome living. As long as you do not let the negative things in life drag you down, as long as you do not allow your heart to become a stagnant pool of resentment, you are opening the path of peace for yourself.